And now, a short infomercial on behalf of the military-industrial complex and all starving defense contractors, starring mortal enemies Sean Penn and Sean Hannity.
I said that I don't trust you.
President Zelensky had been a comedic actor who had played a character that then became the president and then became the president. We went initially to make a documentary.
Supplied the drones, supplied the javelins, supplied the stingers.
A squadron, which is, you know, 2 squadrons is probably what it would take. That's about $300 million. One billionaire could pay for those planes if the NATO countries would let them overfly and deliver them.
The anti-missile systems they need, the defense systems.
We could get F-15s, F-16s, and they can fly those with 3 weeks of training. They can fly the MiGs and the SUs now.
Aircraft systems, hang on.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would give them the MiGs.
Yeah.
So we're in agreement.
We absolutely agree.
So we're in agreement. We absolutely agree. I said that I don't trust you.
Give them the weapons and let them win.
Yeah.
Western Europe and America needs to supply them with the weaponry to win.
That's right.
I said that I don't trust you. We absolutely agree.
Do yourself a favor right now, click on the link in the description, grab my code, and get a massive discount on this ultra bright rechargeable survival flashlight. You can hang it on any metal surface, it's durable, the charge lasts forever, you don't need batteries because it's powered by the sun or with a wall outlet. You can use it to charge your cell phone from 0 to 100%. It's got multiple emergency flashing modes plus a shop light function. There's a glass breaker, a seatbelt cutter, a compass, and an emergency siren. Guys, this thing is frickin' bright. Grab one while you can. The link's in the description. Okay, a Hollyweird actor was interviewed by a corporate teleprompter reader the other day. And of course, we can expect a whole lot of truth to come out of that. All the propaganda networks are ceaselessly pumping out their own mind poison. From CNN to MSNBC, CBS, ABC, NBC, and Fox, every single one of them have their viewers focused on Putin the villain and Zelensky the hero. And they just keep saying it because they know the more they say it, the more people that they're going to get to believe in it. And there is a big picture here. This manufactures the consent that they need to justify ramping up the war machine. The teleprompter reading prostitutes keep sitting there night after night, day after day, pounding the mockingbird narrative deeper and deeper into the minds of the collective masses. Last night, the WWE-styled programming featured 2 supposed rivals, Sean Penn and Sean Hannity. The first thing they wanted to do was remind you that they are enemies who vehemently disagree with one another in every possible political way. Think Ric Flair versus, I don't know, Randy Savage. But even that won't stop them from teaming up like best buds to promote stealing more money from the Western people to beef up the NATO war machine. And to wreck the economies of the world, trash the dollar, and usher in the New World Order via the central bank digital currency under the auspices of the wonderful "you'll own nothing and be happy" Great Reset. It's important for them that you demand that the governments of the world unite and do something about Putin. So let's take a listen to this unconvincing setup.
Here with more is the award-winning actor, filmmaker, co-founder of CORE. His name is actor Sean Penn. How are you?
I'm well.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. I want to start this in. So I made a phone call to you. I read that you were there, and the story interested me. If you were on this set 99 out of 100 times, we probably would be in full disagreement, right?
No question about that.
All right. So I make the first phone call to you. I don't know if you remember. And I said, I'm interested in the work that you're doing and why you were there even before the war started and this documentary you're doing. Do you remember what you first said to me?
I do.
What'd you say?
I said that I don't trust you.
Is there a reason you didn't trust me?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons I don't trust you, but my trust or your trust, you know, there's so many people that don't trust their spouse, and yet we've got to get on with life, and we've got a situation. I've never felt this way about where our country is and what I experienced emotionally in Ukraine, where it had not, we all talk about how divisive things are, how divided things are here. But when you step into a country of such incredible unity, you realize what we've all been missing. And I don't think that I've got time to indulge my lack of trust, which it becomes a petty thing as people and babies are being vaporized. And that these people are fighting for the very dreams that are the aspiration of all of us Americans. And we talked about that too.
We did.
And we agreed on that. That we've got to take their example of solidarity.
We'll worry about political disagreements. If you ever want to come back another day, you're always invited.
Fair enough.
I said that I don't trust you.
Does anybody see the irony of that? Sean Penn doesn't trust Hannity, and Hannity doesn't trust Penn, and disagrees with almost everything he stands for, but somehow these two untrustworthy psychopaths together think that you, the viewing audience, are stupid enough to let your guard down and trust the two guys that don't even trust one another. So if what these Mockingbird agents have said up to this point can't be trusted, not even by themselves, how can we trust what they're saying about what appears to be a made-for-TV conflict where they want to extract more tax cattle money to provide the military hardware to one of the most corrupt countries in the world? I'm thinking we probably can't. And of course, as planned, and to go along with the visual, Sean Penn is wearing military green with his little Corps jacket as they attempt to sell us on the idea of World War III. In this interview, Sean Penn, the actor, talks about how Zelensky was a comedian and actor who became president on TV, then became president in real life. It's almost like they're mocking us out in the open here.
President Zelensky had been a comedic actor who had played a character that then became the president and then became the president. We went initially to make a documentary.
Penn also talks about how Zelensky's country and his military are not divided, which is an interesting statement given that he virtually eliminated all political opposition and has a military and society infiltrated by a large group of the Azov Battalion, Nazi sympathizers in its ranks. When asked by Hannity if Sean Penn trusted Zelensky when he first met him, Penn said he and Hannity have a lot of baggage and that Hannity is an enemy of the state. But all of a sudden now you have to believe Hannity and Penn because, hey, military hardware, dude. We got to give it to the Ukrainians, man.
Well, it's interesting because we had met initially on a Zoom call.
Did you trust him? A lot more
I
than
was
me.
Really interested to see who he was.
It's easy, yeah.
And I didn't have the baggage with him I have with you.
What is the baggage? We never met before. Go ahead.
Well, actually, I have as a badge,
television set?
No, as a badge of honor in my house. I've got the full screen that I dominate as an enemy of the state with you in foreground.
I don't remember.
It's a true thing.
Now listen to an actor fawn over the adrenalized courage of another actor.
I met him face to face for the first time the day before the invasion, and then spent time with him, which we document in the film, during the invasion, on the day of the invasion. And I don't know that there's a person on earth who could know that they were born for such a day, that they could rise to it.
I want to make sure we're on the same page. When
yeah.
you say invasion, was this him taking the two regions, Donbass, et cetera, or?
Well, there were also rockets coming in. This is also when they took the airport 15 clicks out of Kiev. So it was game on. And so in him, I saw something that I've never seen before in my lifetime. That, like I said, having seen him, yes, prepared for it. Yes, hoping against hope it would not happen. But a man who'd not yet been challenged with it's happening. And the next day, I saw something that is a man, but it's a man with the adrenalized. He's the face of something that you see in all the Ukrainians we saw and talked to, whether they were in uniform, out of uniform, school teachers, even children. This extraordinary courage that's come up, and it was in his eyes, and it is clear to me that the Ukrainians will win this. The question is, at what cost?
Both the actor and the corporate teleprompter reader agree that the tax cattle should foot the bill to enrich the defense contractors so they can supply Ukraine with military hardware.
Did they have, in those early hours, I know that Trump gave them javelins. I know that they had some defenses. But if you go back to the Budapest Agreement, they were at the time the third largest nuclear power in the world. And they made an agreement that they'd give those weapons to Russia to be destroyed in exchange for protection from Russia, Great Britain, and the U.S. Lesson to be learned here, don't give up your nuclear weapons if you have them, because you can't believe people like Vladimir Putin.
Well, even countries that have nuclear weapons can remain intimidated to use them, and we're seeing that now with our own country. And I fear what that legacy is going to be. No one wants to see a nuclear conflict.
I don't want to see one. Nobody does.
At the same time, if only one bully is going to be able to use those weapons as a threat, we got to rethink what we're doing.
See, I think the West made a mistake in this buildup that Putin, as he brought in 10,000 troops and 20,000, and we get up to 100,000, and it became very clear, transparent, and obvious that he was going to go in, and all the military equipment with it. At that point, I thought NATO countries and Western European countries and the U.S. should have anticipated what was pretty obvious and been arming the Ukrainians for that moment, and I don't think they were prepared either.
Penn even wants to supply the Azov battalion with F-15s and F-16s.
This could happen tomorrow also. We could get F-15s, F-16s, and they can fly those with 3 weeks of training. They can fly the MiGs and the SUs now.
Penn talks about delivering an additional $300 million worth of military equipment to supply 2 squadrons in Ukraine.
What matters to me is, and what's true, is for a squadron, which is, 2 squadrons is probably what it would take from everyone that's an expert I talk to end this thing. And that's about $300 million. One billionaire could pay for those planes if the NATO countries would let them overfly and deliver them.
Listen to Hannity admit that both Democrats and Republicans are warmongers, but that we should have wars anyway as long as we can finish them and win them. And then he goes on to describe how he's A-OK with both the Reagan doctrine and the Trump doctrine. The Reagan doctrine, of course, is that of foreign intervention and interference in regime change operations by supplying military industrial equipment to third parties so we can fight proxy wars. And he agrees with the Trump doctrine of entering a war with new technology by bombing the shit out of other countries in the name of democracy. Sean Penn responds by agreeing that we must arm Ukraine and their military. Check this out.
I think if we learn from recent history that politicians, Republicans and Democrats, they're all gung-ho, they start these wars, they don't fight them to win them. They start the war, gung-ho, then they politicize the war, then we lose our national treasure, our sons and daughters, then others come home with debilitating injuries, lost limbs, legs, arms, deformities that you can't even imagine. I've met many of them in the course of my life. And then they say, never mind, and like the disaster in Afghanistan, they pull out. So I'm not for one boot on the ground. Ronald Reagan had a doctrine, and the doctrine was, in the case of the former Soviet Union invading Afghanistan in the 80s, he supplied Stinger missiles to the Mujahideen, by the way, not perfect partners by any means, and they were able to defeat the former Soviet Union. He helped the Nicaraguan freedom fighters, the Contra rebels against the Sandinistas, and Daniel Ortega. Okay, I support that doctrine. I support the Trump doctrine that if you're going to fight a war, you push buttons using new military weaponry and technology, and you bomb the living, I call it Adam Schiff. You bomb the ship out of...
But I would argue
you bomb the ship out of the caliphate.
And now give me a chance to respond.
Hang on, I will. Baghdadi and Soleimani and the al-Qaeda leader in Yemen. Those are 2 doctrines I believe in. If we were to apply those doctrines here, I believe Ukraine would win. What's your doctrine?
Here's what we have to know, is that the Ukrainians are fighting to win. And they're fighting to win for the very thing that we're able to do right now, to be free, to dream. And that is what we say we represent as Americans. So we have a great example of fighting to win. There's another part of it, because we've talked about the military part of it. The civilian part of it also is that we know, you see conflict zone journalists, yes, Tragically, some die. But
I have some of my colleagues die.
I'm going to finish my point. Most of them, you know, over and over. We can watch it on TV. Why? Because you can be smart and you can know where the strategic zones are, whether it's you know, a traditional war or not. And people can move. So can aid. And so one of the things we're not seeing by any scale, UN organizations operating, they can. We're also talking about they talk about security for aid and supplies being resourced to civilians and to military. And for civilians, in many cases, armored vests are important. So one of the things I want to say just about what it is being there is that, of course, there are risks in a conflict zone. But it is not what we picture so often about a bunch of, here we come to save the day foreigners. You take one car and one truck of supplies to that border, give that truck and those supplies to Ukrainians who aren't going to leave if you ask them to, and are going to be at risk with or without our help. So we might as well give them the help. They'll bring the supplies to where they've got to go.
How is that any different than I'm saying? Supply the drones, supply the javelins, supply the stingers.
Because I'm not talking about anybody's doctrine that got us into a lot of other crap.
The anti-missile systems they need, the defense systems, the anti-aircraft systems, hang on.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would give them the MiGs.
Yeah.
So we're in agreement.
We absolutely agree.
And so we're in agreement. We absolutely agree.
And fight the war to win it. And that means defeat Russia.
Or let them fight it to win it, because they will.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Let the Ukrainians fight themselves.
We agree.
So there you go. Supply the drones, the javelins, the stingers, the anti-missile and aircraft systems, and the MiGs. They both agree.
So we're in agreement. We absolutely agree. And
both Sean Penn and Sean Hannity are united. What they're both agreeing to and propagating here is that more money be stolen from the American people and the people of the West. Money we can't afford to spend because we're broke, to fund a war that the banksters started for the very purpose of devaluing the dollar and increasing the coffers of the state. In both Hannity and Penn's scheme, we have the applause of the overt transfer of wealth and power. The state gets more powerful, we lose our freedoms, and everything we hold dear in life evaporates. This is a classic infomercial for the military-industrial complex. The video was massively downvoted, and as of the recording of this video, this Fox interview had over 1.6 million views with 30,000 likes and over 44,000 dislikes. What's alarming is that while these two puppets sit there and promote shelling out more money to initiate World War III, many in the comments section are talking about how great it is that these two Seans can set aside their differences and have a cordial conversation. Never mind that the two are teaming up on the viewers, trying to brainwash them into accepting more military-industrial complex tyranny. And here comes the heartfelt plea for unity among those who fundamentally disagree but continue pushing for tyranny anyway.
You and I can argue all day, but I look at you and I think you believe in this country in your way. I believe it in mine.
100%.
And I think it's at risk because the great dream of it, the aspiration of it, with all its diversity, because Ukrainians, with all their unity, they got a lot of diverse thought over there too. Mm-hmm. I think we're really at risk if we let the greatest, most historic in our lifetime, fight for democracy against a gigantic superpower of a military intimidation and
they've done
thuggery.
amazingly well.
Here are Hannity's thoughts on why he's so impressed with actor Zelensky.
Here's what I want to say about Zelensky. I've been very critical over the years of Ukrainian government corruption because it stinks to high heaven to me. Separate issue for a separate day. And I watched this comedian get elected on a ending corruption platform. This all starts unfolding. And I'll tell you what impresses me about him. You've met him, I haven't. Is that there have been many leaders in the world in similar situations as he's been in, offered asylum. I believe he was even offered asylum here, I've been told by my sources. And they get in a private jet, they pack it full of cash, other currencies, gold and silver.
Yeah, high-heeled shoes.
high-heeled shoes. They get their ass out, right? And he didn't do that. He put on his body armor, and he went around the world. He's begging for help from the world, not boots on the ground. He's asking for munitions and humanitarian assistance. Yeah. Now, that to me, that impresses me. That impresses me. Yeah. Because many other leaders would not have done that.
Listen to Hannity's hypocrisy on what should happen to leaders who invade the sovereignty of other countries.
You know what the Hannity doctrine is? I'll give it to you quick. If you invade a sovereign country, you forfeit your right to lead a country, and you forfeit your right to live, meaning Vladimir Putin has forfeited his right to live.
Never mind that that's basically the blueprint for the way the U.S. military-industrial complex operates. Hannity ends the interview by asking Penn if he trusts him even more now since they've had a cordial, albeit military-industrial complex promoting interview.
You're invited to come back and talk. You'll never talk politics with me on this show, will you?
I don't know, because I think we're in a different time, and we all got to figure out something to talk to each other.
Do you trust me now more than you did?
I'm not gonna weigh in on the Putin thing.
No, you said to me first, I don't trust you. That's what you said to me. Do you trust me? Did I keep my word?
You absolutely kept your word,
So why don't you trust me?
You know what happens is that there's a lot of physical therapy necessary after a big car accident. You don't get it all done in a day.
All right.
All in a day's work for the Dog and Pony Show under the big top. Guys, leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my private email list through my website, highimpactflix.com, and my backup channels, Grease Monkey Videos. And here's the deal. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban video.